Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hilton Meet the Candidates night for this year's board election. My name is Steve Duff from BOCES2 Communications, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's event. This year, the annual budget vote and school board election will be held on Tuesday, May 19th, and the polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Parma Town Hall. I'd like to take the opportunity to everyone here silence your cell phone so we don't have any interruptions. Serving as a member of the board is an honor and a responsibility, and the Hilton community takes that honor and responsibility very seriously. And so our three candidates that we have understand that and are prepared for those important duties. The community elects their school board members. They are local officials who serve without pay. This is a volunteer position. This year here in Hilton, we have three candidates running for two open seats. In ballot order, they are Samantha Fowler, Linda Donovan, and Christine Price. Unfortunately, Linda Donovan is unable to be with us this evening. She had something come up unexpectedly, and she's unable to be here. But you will see her on the ballot. Tonight's program will last approximately 60 minutes. Only the candidates attending the forum may speak. Each candidate will give an opening statement of up to 2 minutes in length, and then after that, I will ask questions one at a time, beginning with the three questions prepared in advance by the event planners. Audience members here can submit questions on the multicolored cards on topics such as education, instruction, board administration relations, board community relations, board oversight, budget, policy, governance, and taxes. Submitted questions, all the questions will go to all the candidates, so each has a chance to answer. When there are 30 seconds remaining in the candidate's allotted time, I'll hold up a little 30-second warning, and then I will stop you when we get to the 2-minute time, but I don't think we'll have any problems with that. To reduce duplication, I have the right as moderator and discretion to combine questions to make sure we keep things moving. As we come to the end of the meeting, we'll have 2-minute closing statements from each of you. So, if we're ready, opening statements, opening comments. Start with Samantha Fowler.
Good evening. I want to start by saying thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to be here tonight. My name is Samantha Fowler. I grew up in Hamlin and I went to Brockport School. I completed my undergrad at SUNY Brockport in Earth Science with certifications in general education grades 7 through 12 with a grade 5-6 extension as well as special education grades 7 through 12. I continued at SUNY Brockport to complete my master's in literacy education birth through 12th grade. I have worked at Monroe II Orleans BOCES as a special education teacher since 2016. There I have taught vocational and career readiness skills to students with disabilities ages 13 to 21. Currently I teach our middle school and high school medically fragile class. My husband was born and raised in Hilton and is a 2010 graduate. We have two young children who are currently in UPK and first grade. Part of our decision to establish our family in Hilton was for the schools, which have proven to be great, especially the teachers and related service providers we have worked with thus far. I would be happy to serve our community as a member of the school board. I promise to be welcoming and affirming to all of our students, lead with integrity, and support our faculty and staff to the best of my ability.
Now, Christine Price, your opportunity.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Christine Price, and I'm running for a second term on the Hilton School Board. I've lived in Hilton, the Hilton School District, since 2015. I live in North Greece with my husband, Matthew, my oldest daughter, Isabel, youngest daughter, Ashley, and our 3 dogs. We have 2 Shih Tzus and a mini Schnauzer. We are definitely dog people. Our daughters attended Northwood Elementary, Merton Williams, and are both graduates of the Hilton High School. Isabel graduated with the class of 2022, and Ashley graduated with the class of 2025. Both of them went on to college. Isabel will be graduating with an undergrad degree in biochemistry in 11 short days and heading to the University of Chicago for a PhD program in geophysics. Ashley is successfully completing her first year as a double major in Spanish and political science. We feel strongly that the excellent education that they received in the Hilton School District has contributed to their post-secondary success. Additionally, I am a teacher in the Rochester City School District. I've been teaching at East High School for 25 years. I teach 11th and 12th grade English and one section of bilingual English because I also speak Spanish. I'm also an active unionist. I'm the elected senior high chair for the Rochester Teachers Association. I'm a member of many union committees. Additionally, I'm an elected NYSET and AFT delegate, an elected building faculty representative at East, an elected member of our school-based planning team and building committee, and I believe that my time and experiences as an educator and as a union leader are valuable in being elected to the Board of Education in Hilton.
Thank you. Thank you both. All right, we'll get into the question portion of the event. Again, these are the first three questions are prepared questions supplied by the district. The Board of Education, a member of the Board of Education carries with it a certain level of responsibility. How have you, and I'll start with Samantha, how have you been involved in education, and how would this translate to developing policy and budget as a board member?
So I've been involved in education for almost 10 school years now. And in my tenure, I have been the chairperson for the special education dinner dance and for the graduation. I also currently sit on the Monroe 2 BOCES Instructional Spaces Advisory Council, and my classroom is located in one of the neighboring districts. I see firsthand how policy and budgeting impacts the school, staff, and students. I will use my knowledge and experience to help develop policies that help students reach their full potential and give all students an equal opportunity. I also know that education is a public good, and we need to make sure we are being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers and for what is best for our students.
Very good. Thank you, Christine. The same question to you. Board membership carries with it a certain level of responsibility. How have you been involved in education, and how would this translate to developing policy and budget?
So I'm not going to repeat my involvement in education because I feel like I already covered that. But I will say that I have been involved in policy and budget making both in my own school district that I work in as well as a board member for the last 3 years in Hilton. I actually just came from my union meeting where we just finished doing our budget for the following year. And I also, for the last 3 years, have sat on the audit committee in Hilton where I have learned a great deal about the budget making process, how we go through audits, how tax levies work, and how we stay within the tax cap each year. And so I've learned a lot about the budget process, even though I came to the table having participated in it somewhat in my own educational experience in my district as a teacher. Policy making, I have the same type of experience. I think it's important that when you're an educator, a lot of the times you know the right questions to ask about policies as they're proposed and as they're developed, because you have experience having policies developed in your own district and you know how they're going to land or how they may land for both students and staff who have to enact them. And I think that is a benefit that I have in my background that also translates to being a board member.
Okay, thank you very much. Christine, we'll stay with you to start this second question. Good working relationships are important for the Board of Education and school district. How do you see yourself working with fellow board members and the superintendent of schools?
So I'm very familiar with working on a team. I do it all day long, every single day. I co-teach all of my classes, so I work with a team of teachers for that. We plan at grade level by department, so I work with a team of people for that. As a faculty rep in my building, I'm one of 8. We're a team that works there. And throughout all of the other things that I do in education, I'm always on a team. I'm never just by myself making decisions. And so I think that experience in working with teams and different types of people benefits me in being able to work with the Board of Education and the school district administration. I will say that I do think that it's important to be collaborative and to listen and to be open to hearing different perspectives. I also think it's okay if everybody doesn't always agree. I'm okay with that. I don't think it's necessarily the norm for everybody to always agree with everything. And I also think it's okay if at the end of the day, people take in information, consider the laws, consider the impact on students and the district as a whole, and then, vote their conscience on that topic. And so while it's really important, I think, to work with your team, I think it's also important to also remember that individually you have to decide how you're going to vote on things when you're a board member.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, same question to you. Good working relationships are important for the Board of Education and the school district. How do you see yourself working with fellow board members and the superintendent of schools?
I see myself working collaboratively, respectfully, and professionally with the board and the superintendent, as well as asking questions. This is something I currently do in my role as a special education teacher to better the learning environment and experience for the whole student. I know I will have a lot to learn as a new board member, but I am happy to put the time and effort into this role to make educated decisions that will benefit as many students as possible.
Okay, thank you both on that topic. Question 3 now, we'll start with Samantha. In recent years, the Hilton Central School District has distinguished itself in many areas of academic excellence, earning state and national recognition. What role should the Board of Education play in encouraging and promoting these efforts?
The board should continue to highlight and celebrate the hard work and success in the district. There is a lot to celebrate and recognize, and by doing so publicly, our community, our students, and our staff find a sense of belonging and desire to stay or come to the district, and that is something to be proud of. I would be honored to share in the celebrations and recognition as a board member.
Thank you, Samantha. Christine, the same question to you. In recent years, the Hilton Central School District has distinguished itself in many areas of academic excellence, earning state and national recognition. What role should the board play in encouraging and promoting these efforts?
I also agree that the board's role is primarily in celebrating and supporting the many excellent academic programs that we have, whether it be the IB program, AP programs, the REACH program, or many of the other programs that we have in this district. I do think it's important to celebrate them and promote them so that our community members and our families in the district know that they exist and know that their children can also partake in and benefit from them. So as a board member, maybe that means attending National Honor Society, maybe that means attending the IB celebration, or other celebrations of some of those programs. Sometimes those programs will come and make presentations to the board, and that's also a way that we're able to recognize them and congratulate them on all of their efforts. I also think it's important that as a Board of Education that we're asking questions, right? So if something's working, how can we expand it? How can we get more kids to take advantage of those opportunities? If we're getting national recognition and the program is so good, then how do we get more families and students to buy into it, right? That would be the only other thing that I would add, besides, just making sure to continue to support them.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now go to questions that we have submitted here from the audience, and we'll start with you, Christine, and we'll go back and forth from there. Christine, who are the stakeholders that the Board of Education represents, and how do you see that process?
Well, there's a lot of stakeholders, right? So there's the Board of Education, there is the superintendent, there is the administration, there are the teachers, there are all of your support staff, your custodians, your transportation people, your cafeteria workers, your students, your parents, and the Hilton community, people who live in the Hilton community of North Greece, Hamlin, Hilton, and Parma. So there's a lot of people to take into account. Some people have children in the school system, and some people do not, but they still live within the school district. And all of those people should be allowed to have a voice at a school board meeting to talk about any kind of agenda item or issue that they have during the public comment section. But there are a lot of stakeholders to consider. It's not just the people who work within the district, but it's also the people who live within the district and utilize the services of the district.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, same question to you. Who are the stakeholders that the Board of Education represents, and how do they do that?
So the stakeholders, like Christine listed, are the people that work for the district, but also those that reside in the district. And I think it's important to hear all of their voices when making decisions for the board that impact them ultimately.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Our next question is, where is the line between your personal freedom of speech and your obligation to follow your oath of office? So when it comes to freedom, the right of freedom of speech, how do you distinguish between freedom of speech personally and your obligation to follow your oath of office as a Board of Education member? Samantha, we'll start with you.
I think it's important if you're going to be on social media to make sure that you are making it known that this is your own personal opinion and not representing the work that you do necessarily for the school, but to also keep in mind that we are elected by our residents and we need to be mindful of them as well, and that they might not have the same beliefs or thoughts that we do, and just try to keep it minimum.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Christine. Where is the line between your rights of freedom of speech personally versus your obligation to follow your oath of office as a Board of Education member?
So I believe that all people, whether you're the superintendent of schools, a board member, a community member, a student, I don't think anybody gives up their citizenship rights simply because you're serving the public in any role. So everybody that is a citizen has a right to freedom of speech. I do think that all people who are in public service have an obligation to, keep speech professional, and to not divulge into like hateful rhetoric. However, and I guess I should say, when you have an oath of office as a board member, you have to follow state laws and federal laws, but you do still have your individual rights. And as far as social media, which I know Samantha addressed, I do think it's important that people understand whether they're looking at a social media account that is, a professional account as a board member, or is that somebody's personal account? And I do think you should still get to have personal freedom of speech, and still be mindful that there are people who are maybe looking at what you say. I will also say I think it's important that if you're going to be in public service, that you pay attention to privacy settings if you're going to engage on social media, because again, you still have to be a person outside of whatever capacity you're serving in the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, we'll start with you, Christine. What are outputs that matter most to you as a school board member? How will you be accountable for them as a member of the board?
What are outputs that
Outputs, measures of success, outputs, I guess I would say.
Okay, so I guess I would say the first thing that matters to me as a metric of success would be our graduation rate. I would also want to know what are kids going on to do post-secondary, or how many of our kids are going to college, how many people are going into the military service, how many kids are going into jobs in the trades. I would want to know that our graduates are going into something where they're going to be able to make a living and support themselves. I also want to look at all of the subgroups, right? So demographics that are like, how are different races of kids in our district doing? How are ENL students who are second language learners doing towards graduation? How are our special education students doing towards graduation? How many kids are participating in our IB program? How many kids are participating in our AP program? I guess I would be looking at how many kids are making it to National Honor Society in high school, how many people are making it to National Junior Honor Society in middle school, what does it look like as far as our kids that go into the honors track in middle school for science and math? What does it look like? How many kids are going into the REACH program across the district? Those are some of the things that I would look at for metrics of success. In addition, I would look at attendance. Do we have any chronic attendance issues? What are we doing about chronic attendance issues? How are we handling, social emotional learning or social emotional needs of our students? Do we have a significant need? How are we meeting that need? How are we making sure that our students are getting the right kind of care? So I guess I would say many of the same metrics that the state looks at when they're evaluating a school for the annual school report card would still be things that as a board member, I would want to know whether or not we're doing well in those areas. And then, of course, if we are or if we're not, to ask questions around that and try and surface what we can do better. Because I don't think there's ever a time that as a school district, we're doing everything perfectly. I think just like learning never ends, I think we are always able to improve our performance and our growth as a district.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Samantha. What are the outputs or measures of success that matter most to you? How will you be accountable for them as a school board member?
I think, like Christine said, obviously the graduation rate, but also looking at each grade level and making sure the students are meeting the benchmarks and the outcomes for each grade level as they move on, and seeing and looking at the data to see where we can improve, what we can continue to offer, or what we should start looking at to offer as well.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, we start with you, Samantha. As an elected Board of Education member who represents the voice of the voters, how will you handle problems or issues that are brought to you from all constituent groups, parents, taxpayers, employees as examples?
I will listen to them and then bring their concerns to the board president or the superintendent to fully address with them, but to keep everybody in the loop as well as what I'm hearing.
Okay, thank you. Christine, the same question to you. As an elected board member who represents the voice of the voters, how will you handle problems or issues that are brought to you from all constituent groups, parents, taxpayers, employees as examples?
So I agree with Samantha. I think you have to listen to the constituents, whether that be that they stop you at the grocery store or they come to a board meeting to speak during public comment. I think you always have to listen to what people are trying to share with you. Not so much to respond, but just to listen and to gather information. Many times, I think when people share things, I have directed people to chain of command, right? So, oh, this sounds like a problem that should go to the high school principal, or this sounds like a problem that should go to your middle school principal, because, again, the board is not charged with necessarily solving the problems of the district by itself or running the district. That's the job of the district administration. And so we need to send it back to the appropriate place. I agree that perhaps I would share any of those interactions in an email to the board members and the superintendent, so everybody was aware that that situation or concern came to me. But again, most of the time, it's just not for us to solve the problem someone's bringing to us, but to try and help them find the right person to speak with to get to that solution that they're seeking. And so I think it's just most important to be available if somebody reaches out to you, whether it's via email, phone call, or like I said, if they stop you anywhere and everywhere in public.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, we start with Christine. What is the board's role in the curriculum that is used in our schools?
Well, so we have a deputy superintendent of instruction. So generally speaking, the board does not select the curriculum, right? But the superintendent and his deputy superintendent of instruction would research what kind of curriculum they think is going to meet the needs of our teachers and students. They will come up with some kind of proposal about curriculum. For example, we are going into adopting a new math program, and they have a program that they've purchased to go along with that, to unroll that program, and they proposed that to the Board of Education. We asked our questions about the program, and then after we've asked all of our questions and they've shared all the information about it, then we vote in support or not of implementing that program towards the curriculum. But we ourselves as board members do not investigate and create and propose curriculum.
Thank you. Samantha Fowler, same question to you. What is the board's role in the curriculum that is used in our schools?
The board's role, like Christine said, is to listen to the superintendent and the administration as to what they feel would be best for the curriculum, and it's our job to ask questions and then agree or disagree with what they are proposing for that said curriculum.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, we will start with you, Samantha. Please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building, oftentimes skills that are needed among board members.
So I deal with conflict resolution every day, whether it's between two students or two different staff members or with families. And it's important to hear both sides and everybody's thoughts and opinions, and then navigate the conversation into finding the common ground and how to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question to you, Christine Price. Describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building, a couple of things that are very important among board members.
So I don't think you can work in education in any capacity without having to deal with conflict resolution and consensus building. Every day in my classroom, I work with conflict resolution and restorative practices. I think that as a board member, you really have to be willing to hear all the different perspectives and expect that 7 people who are elected to a board that don't know each other, right, and are just trying to follow the state and federal laws and hear the recommendations that the district administration is making. You have to know that not all the time are you going to all agree. And I think people need to be okay with the fact that not everybody's always going to come to agreement. Being on a board of education doesn't mean you have to come to consensus, right? It is majority rule, so you do not have to all agree. If you can come to consensus, that is, that's preferred. It's preferred if you can hear people out, listen to the logic, listen to other people's thoughts, and sometimes you find people are presenting something that you haven't yourself thought of, and that's one way that consensus gets built. I do have experience with consensus building because school-based planning works by building consensus. And issues that need to move forward cannot move forward in school-based planning if there's not consensus. And so I am familiar with models where you must do it. However, it is kind of nice that, again, just with like professionalism and listening and allowing other people to have their own opinions and perspectives and express them, that we should be able to, as mature adults, resolve conflicts and come to a decision, even if it's not total consensus of the whole group.
Okay, thank you. Christine, we'll start this next question with you. In your view, what has the district done well over the last 5 years, the near history, and what do you think are opportunities for improvement?
Well, one thing I think the district has done really well, and I'm going to say the past 3 years, because that's the time that I've been on the board, is, and again, before that time, we were kind of close to the COVID times, so I'm going to focus on the last 3 years. I think we've done a really good job with the budget. We've really done a good job at keeping the budget fairly conservative. We're staying under the tax cap. We are not laying off any of our staff. We are still able to add a few new things, especially the ones that are becoming required under Portrait of a Graduate in New York State. But we are able to really kind of live within our means without having enormous budget deficits. And so I think that's one thing that we've done really well. In addition to that, I just think we do a really great job offering students not only opportunities to engage in excellence of academics, but in this district, we have great options for athletics, theater, music, and a variety of other things for kids to participate in and really kind of find their passion, even through clubs and other activities of that sort. And so I really think we do a good job kind of working with the whole kid and not just focusing on the academics alone. Something we can improve on, I think for the last 3 years that I've been on the board, we continue to talk about wanting to improve on trust, community trust, and to work on always improving culture, both culture within the district and culture within the community. And I don't think that's ever going to end. I feel like that's always something that districts are working on, but I do think it's an important thing not to lose sight of because it helps if boards are pretty transparent so that communities can feel like they're getting a full picture and they can trust that people have their best interests at heart.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, same question to you. In your view, what has the district done well over the last 5 or 3 to 5 years? And what are potential opportunities for improvement?
I think the district has done a nice job of staying ahead of the times. They were one of the first districts to implement, at least at the Village Elementary, the free school lunches for all students. And then it expanded. They offered that before the state mandated that. And then I think even with UPK, when my oldest son started, there was, I think, 1 extended day, and now there's a lot more. So we're starting, I think the district is starting to take into account the younger learners as well and giving them more opportunities to get a head start on their education as well. What was the second part? I'm sorry.
Are there any areas for improvement that you see, opportunities?
Like Christine said, there's always areas for areas of opportunity to grow. For example, STEM and for the younger kids. I know the high school offers technology classes, but perhaps looking at the younger generations as well. Continue to build on the community schools. I know we've reached out to Mr. Brown ourselves to help with our oldest kid and staying, wanting to go to school, because that's already been a struggle. And just building those connections with the community partners to make sure our students are taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, we'll start this question with you. In the past, with tough budget times, often there are discussions about programs, sports teams, other things that potentially could be cut from the budget. How do you make those decisions about budget priorities when those things might come up?
I have a note on that.
Okay.
That's somewhere in here. Sorry.
Again, during tough budget times, oftentimes there's discussion of potentially program cuts, sports teams, or other cuts. How do you make those decisions? How do you set those priorities about budgets in tough fiscal times?
I know I have had an impact from a student perspective of cuts and from a teacher perspective, so that's not something that I take lightly. I think it's important to hear all the stakeholders that it does affect and to make fiscally responsible decisions. And sometimes they're not the outcomes that we all would like, but I don't think programming necessarily needs to take a hit on all of the cuts, but to think of everybody's perspectives.
Okay, thank you. Christine, the same question to you. In the past, during tough budget times, there can be discussions about program cuts, sports teams cuts. When those difficult decisions have to be made, how do you prioritize?
So as a Board of Education member, it's not really our job to come up with the priority of what should get cut and what shouldn't. Really, it's our job to listen to the administration who is presenting us with information. They have all the data points, right, as far as what we can do with least disruption for the education of our students. And so most of the time as a board member, we're going to get information about, we think this is what's best for kids to cut the least amount of instructional opportunity, keep the most staff we can without impacting our current staff, right? So maybe being able to not lay anybody off, but by attrition, not necessarily fill every single vacancy from retirement or resignation. And then again, listen to the things that are presented. When it's tough budgeting times, sometimes tough decisions have to be made, but generally speaking, it's not the board members who decide this is more important than that. It's really our district administration who has looked at the budget, looked at the possible places where we could cut things, and then they present us with what they think the best case scenario is. Our job is then to ask questions. It could be questions that, we've heard from community members, to your point, if people are asking about, sports teams or other things. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a recommendation made to us, and we're going to end up voting either in favor or against that recommendation.
Okay. Candidates, take a deep breath. We're at the end of the question and answer portion, and now we're going to do closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. We're going to start with you, Christine. 2 minutes, and then Samantha will have 2 minutes, and then we'll do a quick wrap up. Just a reminder to our audience and those watching, we have 3 candidates this year. Linda Donovan unable to make it tonight due to an unexpected conflict tonight. So we have Christine Price and Samantha Fowler with us. And Christine, you will start closing comments, please.
Thank you. So I am running for a second term as a Board of Education member in Hilton because I am passionate about education. It is my field that I work in. I want our students in the Hilton School District to have the very best education possible. I also very much value community service. Again, as you stated at the beginning, being a school board member is not a paid position, it is a volunteer position. But I do think it's important, and I think there's a lot of things in our community that are not paid positions, but it is still very important that our citizens rise up and volunteer to assist with them because everything simply cannot be a paid position. I think my experience and my background as an educator gives a lot of, I have a lot of things in my background that are valuable to being on a school board because I do know a lot about how education works from the inside out and not just from the outside in as a parent of former students. And so I hope that you will consider voting for me on Tuesday, May 19th at the Hilton Parma Center.
Okay, thank you. Samantha, for you, closing statement, please.
Again, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm proud to be a Hilton resident and to have my own children in our schools. As someone who would be joining the board as a new member, I will be eager to learn from the current board and to work collaboratively with students, families, educators, community partners, and our administration. I'm committed to being open-minded, listening to all voices, and making decisions grounded in what's best for our students in our district. I would be honored to earn your vote and your trust and to serve Hilton with integrity.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to both our candidates who were here able to be with us tonight, and thank you to our audience for submitting questions. Also want to thank Superintendent Dr. Casey Kosorek, District Clerk Q, and Communications Director Dave Yates for organizing and inviting me here tonight. One final reminder, Tuesday, May 19th, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Parma Town Hall. So thank you, everyone, and vote on the 19th.